Okay, so I realize we're kind of building this idea out piecemeal, so this one is going to be very short, and it is what do you need to know about the Reformation? The Reformation in England takes place under Henry VIII. Basically, the motivation is that Henry VIII wants to divorce his wife. And divorce, England at the time is part of the Catholic Church. Divorce is not sanctioned by the Church. So he wants his marriage to Catherine of Aragon annulled so that he can marry Anne Boleyn, and this sort of not directly, but this eventually precipitates the break between England and the Roman Catholic Church. So, what this means economically is that a lot of church property and church tithe and church money is seized by England, and churches are destroyed, and a lot of the churches that are destroyed or defunded are Gothic churches or are Gothic architecture. Um, but the important thing here that I want to talk about is two things that get changed in the theology. They get changed from Catholic theology to Anglican theology, which is for the most part really similar. It's not even as distant as like Protestant versus Catholic. But you do have, so there's actually three. You have a vernacular Bible. You have a Bible that is not written in Latin, and that is something that is going on in Germany at the time, which becomes the Protestant Reformation. That Martin Luther is translating the Bible into German, and that Bibles written in English are getting into England at the time, which the Catholic Church is not a fan of. Um, but the two major doctrinal or theological changes, one is that there's the removal of the martyrs, the saints. The saints still exist, but the idea of martyrdom, of dying for the cause, dying for God, is sort of um, delegitimized. And Catholic churches used to have artifacts of martyrs, like they'd have like knuckle bones and pieces of cloth that belonged to martyred saints, and people would come and they would pay to see them, and to touch them, and like they would have people thought they had healing powers and all this kind of stuff. And because the Church of England, as it's establishing itself, wants to take away that as a revenue stream for the Catholic Church, the idea of martyrdom and the sanctity of martyrs is taken away. The idea that there is something holy about dying for the Church, which is Catholic specific, that gets delegitimized in England. And the other thing that goes away is the idea of purgatory. So purgatory is a sort of space between heaven and hell in the conception of the afterlife. And like if you're a baby who isn't baptized, you go to purgatory rather than go to hell. Um, but the way the Catholic Church used purgatory is like if your sins were not that bad, you could go to purgatory, and people would basically pay to have the Pope or like a prominent church official say prayers for you, and eventually you could move out of purgatory into heaven. So it was this liminal space. It's this space between heaven and hell where people's souls go after death. Um, and that gets removed in Protestantism, and it gets removed in the Anglican Church. And so what happens is um, you've sort of removed a fundamental idea of the afterlife and a place that souls could go to, and so that is going to become important in how the Gothic enters into the idea of British thought, and it does um, map onto these ideas that are being lost. So you have again um, the sanctity of martyrdom. You have the idea of and gory, a noble and gory death for the church is no longer a holy thing. It's no longer sanctified, and you have the removal of purgatory. So the idea that there is a space where souls that are not outrageously good or outrageously bad go after they die, and that is taken away and is removed from religious thought in Protestant and Anglican cultures, and it's going to come back in a weird way. Both of those things are going to sort of come together and come back in a weird way, which is what we're going to talk about in just a minute.